to the public. I want to welcome you all to the first Ad Hoc Committee on a Bill of Rights meeting of 2022 and wish you all a happy new year. As with all our meetings since the beginning of the pandemic, this is another hybrid meeting where some members, myself, Emma Sheeran, the Chair, are in the room and other members are attending via Starleaf. So we have got Alan Chambers, Paula Bradshaw, the Vice Chair, Carol McCullen and Mark Durkin attending via video conferencing. Item number 1 is apologies. I haven't received any apologies for today, but we've got no one yet from the DUP. Has anyone else received apologies? No? OK. Item number 2 is Chair's business, and there is none for this afternoon. So I can move on to item number 3, which are the draft minutes, and you'll find the draft minutes for our meeting held on the 25th of November at page 6 of your pack. Are members content to agree then? I think Alan wants to. Brilliant. Oh, Jakers, sorry, Alan. Come on ahead.
Chair, thank you very much. I can't endorse the minutes, Madam Chair, because I don't think that they are truly reflective of what actually happened at that meeting in November. I know that you made a very strong case for suspending the committee on the basis of the executive's inability to appoint a panel of experts. You also made a fairly spirited critique of the DUP paper, and that's for them to defend or comment on. But I'm not sure that that was really fair to do that and to sort of cite that as part of the, that they were opposed to a Bill of Rights. They did what they were asked. They put in a paper. That whatever was in that paper should have been then reflected in our report to the Assembly. I think also from the correspondence we received from the Law Society, it's quite clear that the interpretation that they put on the suspension of that meeting was that, in fact, the work of the committee was suspended indefinitely, and certainly I came away from that meeting with that impression as well, because another item on the agenda that day was the date of the next meeting, and certainly that wasn't discussed, or we weren't given a date for our diary for the next meeting. So I certainly came away with a firm disappointment that the work of this committee was suspended. And in relation to the panel of experts, I mean, we haven't had a panel of experts, but it hasn't stopped this committee and others before me that served on it from working to the position that we've got to today, and that's to be commended. I can't understand why at the 11th hour we would then sort of just stop the work of the committee because of the lack of panel of experts. Why did we even start our work if we didn't have that panel of experts in place, if that was so vital? So I think as well that possibly, Chair, you acted outside the lawful limits of office in suspending that meeting because we are under an obligation to report to the Assembly by February on our work. And obviously, if the committee was suspended, then we wouldn't be able to fulfil that work and meet that deadline. So I just really, I'm not going to endorse the minutes. I can't support the minutes because equally it said that the committee agreed to suspend the meeting. I didn't. Nobody asked me if I agreed to suspend the meeting. There was a proposal and a seconder, but there was no vote taken. So nobody really got the opportunity to say whether they supported your action or not. And just I wonder if maybe you could tell the committee what changed between that meeting and an email coming out convening the meeting last week, which was postponed and relocated to today. What actually changed and what made you decide that the work of the committee after suspending it for the reasons that you give, and those reasons haven't changed since that meeting? What did actually change in your thinking to proceed to calling this meeting today? Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. I see indications from both Carol and Paula, and I'm going to let both of them in. Just, I suppose, in answer to what you've asked there around the decision, we are bound, as you've rightly pointed out, to present a report to the Assembly. And that is why we did discuss at the meeting on the 25th of November that we would hopefully reconvene to agree that report. I hoped that in the interim period the DUP might show a change of heart, because in the position paper that they gave, they rescinded an earlier agreement that they had made, that they agreed that there should be a Bill of Rights for the North as per NDNA commitments. So our reason for meeting today is to try and agree the report, which we are bound to present to the Assembly. And the point about the panel of experts is that the panel of experts were supposed to guide us in the more legalistic and the legislative parts of the Bill of Rights. We proceeded with the process at the very beginning in taking evidence from sectoral groups and from experts in the hope that we would then have something that our panel of experts would assist us in creating into a Bill of Rights. So that's the rationale from my perspective, but your concerns around the minutes of the previous meeting are noted on my behalf.
Chairman, I don't recollect or recall. Sorry, I don't recall. Sorry, did I finish, Chairman?
Alan,
I don't recall.
Alan,
Sorry,
Alan,
Chairman.
I'm not a chairman. Alan, I'm going to let Carol in, and then I'll let Paula in, and then you'll have an opportunity to speak again.
Thank you, Emma. So this is an example of where people attend meetings, but they can't remember anything. And so it's clear what's happened. The meeting was suspended. We do have an obligation to bring a report forward, and that's where we're at. And you know, it's really frustrating for us who've been on this committee from the start, who've listened to a lot of evidence, and fair play to Mike Nesbitt, he done it from a genuine point of view. But most of us have listened to all the evidence, including going to a lot of sessions, and we at every stage had said we need a panel of experts. The panel of experts was clearly blocked by the DUP. Now, fair play to you for your stout defence of the DUP in their absence, Alan, but that's the recollection that I have. Others, too, were either at meetings or picked up where they weren't at meetings, but certainly picked up, took it upon themselves to be responsible and pick up where the gaps are. So, Chair, it's just to put that in the record. That's what happened.
Thank you, Carol. Paula, you'd indicated.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to put on record my concern at how this whole scenario is playing out in the public domain. There are a lot of community organisations, charities, and those who've been advocating for a Bill of Rights for many years are deeply dismayed at the behaviour that they're seeing emanating from this ad hoc committee and from their elected representatives. So it's deeply disappointing that the DUP has not bothered to send either of its representatives along here today to try to remedy this situation or get this process back on track. And my recollection, in closing, my recollection was that we did vote on it, that it was put to on the report.
No.
It was, Alan, I didn't interrupt you. It was put to the members. We agreed to suspend the meeting. It was highly regrettable at the time, but that is my recollection. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Alan, you're welcome to come back in.
I'm in total disbelief here. I know Carol there, I know Carol lets her imagination run away with her at times about what people said and what they didn't say. She referred there to being admirable that I was making a stout defence of the DUP. I think it was quite clear in their remarks that I was not here to defend the DUP. If they wanted to do that, they should be here themselves. And in relation to progressing the Bill of Rights, I was at that meeting on the 25th of November to help progress that, because my party wants to progress the Bill of Rights, and that's what I was here for. But the chairperson that day disrupted the progression of the work of the committee and deprived us of an opportunity that day of getting on with her work. So certainly I'm not going to take any accusations that I or my party in any way have tried to stymie the Bill of Rights. And honestly, go back. I would advise everybody to go back and look. There's a video of the meeting. Go back and listen to the video and watch it, and then come back and tell me that my memory's faded or there's something wrong with my memory. I know I don't have the greatest of memory, but I'm quite clear what happened at that meeting. There was no vote taken. There was no mention of a vote taken. There was no show of hands. So I don't know where this nonsense is coming from that a vote was taken. Quite frankly, I think we should be seeking legal advice about the suspension of the meeting, because I think that the chair did act completely without legal authority and maybe should reflect on her position.
Thanks, Alan. Mark, were you looking in?
No, I was just going to make the very point, Chair, that because we're doing these on Starleaf, there are recordings of the meetings. I don't profess to recall verbatim the conversation or discussions that took place on that day. I have to say, aware of the proposal to suspend the meeting and content with it, albeit that it may not have been put to a vote per se. I thought you as chair were left with little option. Continuing the meeting wasn't really an option, to be quite frank.
Thanks, Mark. And in my recollection of it, it mightn't have been put to a formal vote, but there was a unanimous decision and there was no request from Alan, as I recall, to put it to a vote. So that would have been your opportunity if you wanted a vote that would formally acknowledge your opposition to the suspension, but on the day you didn't do that. So appreciate your remarks around our minutes. I don't know in this instance if we can agree the minutes with note that one member is unhappy with them.
I'm not unhappy with them, completely dismissive of the minute, Chair. They do not reflect what happened at the meeting, so that I would wish that to be recorded. Thank you.
Chair, maybe you can advise.
So, Chair, I would seek agreement from the committee on the minutes. A member can propose a change and that can be considered by the other members as well. It requires a simple majority to agree on the committee.
Okay. Alan?
Chair, may I just ask one more question, Chair, and then we can get on with the meeting. Can I ask, after that meeting in November, did you receive any advice from the clerical staff about the actions that you took that day, and that maybe another course of action would be confirmed if that was the case, or deny it that was the case? Thank you.
You've broken up there a little bit, Alan. I didn't hear the latter part of your contribution.
Sorry, Chair. I was asking if after the meeting in November, had you received any advice from the clerical staff about the conduct of the meeting and what action maybe you should take going forward? Were you offered any advice about going forward?
No, and we agreed to write to members with the two suggested dates of the 13th and the 20th, and had agreed to meet on the 13th, and due to unforeseen circumstances around plenary business, last week's meeting had to be postponed at last minute because of the obligations on the clerk in relation to the Integrated Education Bill. If members are content to agree the minutes.
Chair, is it in order for me to put a question to the clerk?
Alan, you can proceed.
Was the chair satisfied with the actions that were taken at the meeting in November? Was she happy with the legality of them and the standing of them? And so that's the question. Was she happy and satisfied? You feel that the conduct of the meeting met all the regulations, etc.?
I was. Thank you. So are members happy to agree the minutes?
Agreed.
Okie dokie. We can move then to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 4, matters arising. We don't have any matters arising today. So then I'm going to move on to the correspondence part of our pack. You can find the correspondence memo beginning at page 10 of the pack, and you'll find a number of items of correspondence there. So item 5.2 is an invitation to the Commission for Victims and Survivors event that marked the launch of the Better Together research paper. Are members content to note? Yeah.
Agreed.
Agreement. Thank you. Item number 5.3, and I've been advised by the clerk in advance of this that we need agreement from all parties, and obviously we don't have any DUP representation today, so we may have to write to them in regards of their agreement on this. Page 12 of your pack, you'll find an email from Dermot Nesbitt regarding the committee meeting on the 25th of November. And he asks to see copies of the party position papers. Now, I actually suggested to the clerk in advance of the meeting that we might make public all the party position papers, and was advised that before we would make that suggestion, or agree indeed to Mr Nesbitt's request, that we would need agreement from all the political parties. So I can offer that on behalf of Sinn Féin. I don't know if others have a view or their contempt for their party papers. Paula, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and I've had requests from others that they wanted to see all 5 parties' papers, so I do understand there's an interest out there. I raised this issue with the clerk a while back, and she gave a very satisfactory response in that the papers would have to be read in the context of the advice that we received almost informally from the Northern Ireland Human Rights Commission, and so we would need to then put it alongside that, and I suppose that information was provided to us for internal use as a committee, so I'm just not sure whether putting them up actually gives them the context that people reading them would need. I suppose the alternative would be that we could actually modify all of our positions in those so they're more accessible and easier to read for people, just reading them as a standalone paper. That's my suggestion. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Would parties be content to sort of make that or agree to that proposal that they would modify their party documents so that they are, I understand what you mean, they sort of need the advice paper in order to be understood clearly. I don't see a problem with that from our perspective.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Is that Mark agreeing?
I don't disagree, Chair, but I just wonder, can anyone come in at any time asking for more for more than that than we've already provided? That's all. I mean, there was actually no requirement for us to provide papers, or no statutory or legal requirement for us to provide the papers in the first place. And now I think people will come in looking for them. There's nothing to hide in ours, or I'm sure no party will want to have anything to hide in any of theirs either. But just don't know that would be really.
Another option, our positions can be reflected in the report, the further option as well, or not at all, up to members.
Well, would that be something that members would prefer then, that we reflect our positions if we have a report that's agreed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take a lack of dissent then as agreement, unless you want to push that to a vote, Alan?
No, I'm happy, Chair. Just there's a time to vote and a time not to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, you'll find then at page 13 of your pack correspondence from the Law Society regarding our committee meeting on the 25th of November. Are members content to note that? Brilliant. And then at page 14 of your pack...
Sorry, Chair, in relation to that, the correspondence from the Law Society, you wouldn't put that they state in it that their discipline was suspended indefinitely, or that the work of the committee was suspended indefinitely. Would it be your intention to write to the Law Society and...
Breaking up, Alan. Sorry, Alan, you're breaking up.
The Law Society letter indicated that they were disappointed with the fact that the work being suspended indefinitely was the word to use. I'm just wondering, will you be writing to the Law Society to refute that remark?
I have absolutely no problem doing so if the committee agree. I mean, obviously we're meeting today, so the work had not concluded indefinitely at that point. We have resumed the work today, so I've no bother unless anybody else objects. We can write to the Law Society to advise them that we've had a meeting this afternoon, and indeed would have had it this time last week, only for unforeseen circumstances beyond any of our controls.
Chair, would you accept that the fact that we didn't set another date for our next meeting, as was appeared on the agenda at that meeting in November, might have led some people to believe that, in fact, the work of the committee had been suspended indefinitely.
People may have thought that, but myself and the clerk had discussed in the immediate aftermath of that meeting that we would try and get another meeting in the diaries in mid-January, and members received copies of the draft report then and were asked to come back with changes before Christmas, and told that we will be meeting again in January to discuss that. Okay, Alan.
If there was a meeting after the meeting?
I can't hear you.
Sorry, I'm not sure if you heard me. I asked, you indicated there that there was a meeting. Did you say there was a meeting after the meeting in November?
No, I did not say that. I said that myself and the clerk agreed at that point that we would send the draft report out to all members, asking them to come back with feedback before the Christmas break. I can't remember what was been the 17th of December. I can't remember the date.
That's right.
You should have received that. And as part of that email, you were told that we were hoping to reconvene in the middle of January with those dates offered in the meeting, in the body of the email.
Chairman, how are you reconciling the fact that there's still not a panel of experts? That was the reason that you cited that day for suspending the meeting. So how are you reconciling now going forward when we still don't have a panel of experts? Is it not as important now as it was back in November when you suspended the meeting for that reason?
Carol, come on ahead.
So it's up to you as chair, Emma, but it's quite clear that you said now, and I'm just counting here, on 3 occasions that the meeting was suspended because there was no agreement, that we needed to come back, that there was other dates organised, but because of assembly business it couldn't happen. So we're now trying to conduct a meeting on someone else's recollection of what's happened. So there was a proposal, I think, to rectify or respond to the Law Society's letter outlining what happened, unless there's something else. I'm not too sure what Alan's point is, other than being unnecessarily repetitive.
Thanks, Carol. Yeah, so our members contend for us to raise the Law Society. Alan, you see, proper conduct of a meeting is waiting until you're asked to speak by the chair. I'm chairing this meeting. Okay? So I'm asking members if they'll agree that we write to the Law Society and advise them that we have indeed met again today and that the work was not suspended indefinitely. We had no panel of experts agreed. We have written to the Executive Office on a number of occasions. It's widespreadly known that the DUP are blocking the panel of experts, that they are to advise us on the legislative parts of the Bill of Rights, and that we have not agreed those yet. And our hope, and my hope certainly in November, was that we would have a panel of experts established and they would be able to advise us before we're bound to report to the Assembly. That has not yet happened. We don't have the DUP representing us, or representing at the meeting today, and their party paper has said that they believe a Bill of Rights should not focus on rights. Item 5.6 of correspondence, page 310 of your pack, is a memo from the CAMS office regarding a deaf awareness course for members and their staff. And if members wish to attend the final online session, which is scheduled for Friday the 21st of January, they're to make contact with the CAMS office team to arrange. And I actually think there might be another date of the 4th of February that has been offered as well, which I know I myself have committed to attending. Item number 6 is any other business. If any member has any other business that they wish to raise, I'll take that as a no. Oh, sorry,
Chair.
I missed your hand there.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to put on record, I think this is linking on from my previous point there, how upset I am for the likes of Professor Colin Harvey in terms of the public media attention that was brought to this committee and him by association in terms of panel of experts. He's a man who has given his life to academic research around human rights, highly respected here in Northern Ireland and across the UK and down south. And I just think that we should write to him or make some gesture to him that the committee itself does not hold any grudge or any conceived ideas as to his credibility or his ability to be on the panel of experts. I just think it was very unedifying that that spilled out from this committee. I haven't seen any evidence personally that the DUP were blocking his appointment to the panel of experts. But I think that the fact that there's media attention on this has just been very disappointing, and no doubt has been deeply upsetting for him as an individual and a professional man. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula, and I think that is a suggestion that we should take on board and write to Colin expressing solidarity unless anyone has any opposition. And I see that Carol had indicated there, so I want to let you in.
No, I agree with Paula's proposal. I just feel that it's quite dangerous. It's quite upsetting and annoying for the individual and indeed for his family and indeed others who are stepping forward to give us guidance and advice in a professional capacity. I also feel that even the places that employ people like Colin that are called into question as well, and while no one on this committee said anything remotely scurrilous or offensive or hurtful in relation to all the stuff that's went in front of the media, this committee's work has been cited as a reason for all this to happen, and I think Paula's suggestion is completely appropriate, and I'm happy to support it.
Thank you very much. I think we've all agreed there. Alan, I can see a hand up beside you. I don't know if that's you indicating now or that's a previous indication.
Yeah, Chair, I certainly would join in the deploring the abuse that has received. It's disgraceful and nobody should be subjected to that. But the other issue is that I think it's unfortunate that they got into the public domain, and I don't know where that happened. I don't know, but his name shouldn't have ever found its way into the public domain. And equally as well, I'm like Paula said, I don't know what the workings of the executive is and what's going on in relation to vetoes or whatever. Maybe others have more inside knowledge of what's going on in the executive than I have. But his name should never get out. He applied for a position. There was an interview procedure, I understand, and a decision maybe was never taken. But nobody's name in those circumstances should ever find its way into the public domain. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan.
Chair, could I please clarify what you would like in that letter? Some decisions on the expert panel were a matter for the Executive Office.
Yes, and not the committee, and something along the lines of, I think Paula's suggestion there is appropriate, that in terms of committee membership, we in no way doubt his ability or his standing as an academic expert on the field of rights, and that we respect both his contribution to our committee's work in that he did present to us and took the time to answer our questions, and his position in the role that he occupies, and there's no attempt to disparage his reputation from our perspective, if that would be sufficient for people. Yeah. Okay. So in terms of any other business, that's it. So the last item then in the public session of our meeting is the date, time and place of next meeting, which we will agree following our informal deliberations. So I would ask members to remain on the call and be added to the spotlight so that we can move into our informal session to agree a report. So thank you all.
This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 29.